Well, good afternoon from the UAE and good evening in New Zealand. A very special episode of Change of Pace. We have first a Lahore Qalandars legend and second a New Zealand Test cricketer, Grant Elliott, with us, and he's also a World Cup finalist. Famously scored the winning runs in that 2015 World Cup final, and then famously also dropped the bat in Sharjah in that celebration. So thanks for joining us, Grant. I know
World Cup semifinal. Very big difference.
Slight.
I wish it was the final.
Oh man.
Hey, it's coming. It's coming soon. You guys are getting closer every step of the way. So there's that. But listen, thanks for coming on. I know you're jet lagged. I know you're in quarantine, but it really is a pleasure to have you on. You and I are going to rub it into the Lahore fans. AZ is going to talk about how terrible that they've been this season and how good they were when you were with them. But let's start with the PSL, because you've been with them now in different dynamics, right? You've been with Lahore as a player, and now you're a part of the broadcast team. You've worked in New Zealand and outside of it. What's the experience like at the PSL? What sets it apart? Is it boring, languid, annoying, or do you have a little bit of fun on the job as well?
No, it's good. I mean, I played for Quetta as well, so I don't remember. That was my first team.
Yeah.
And then they didn't want me anymore, so Lahore picked me up. The PSL, I love a 6-team comp. I think that it's always pretty close going into, the end sort of stages. There's normally, a fight between 4 teams for those last 2 stages or 2 places. And like we had Multan Sultans going into the second stage of things.
Yeah.
And actually moving the competition to Abu Dhabi actually made it a lot more interesting, because prior to that, if you won the toss, you won the game. So 13 of the 14 games were won by the team who won the toss. So, it made it interesting going into Abu Dhabi. There was a different dynamic. And I think the teams are getting a lot more consistent. I think what I've seen from a serious cricket point of view and cricket purist is that it is producing better players, like the youngsters that are coming through. I think they've got an opportunity to shine on a stage it supersedes first class and is kind of like the next stage to international cricket, and they're mixing with internationals in their team. So I think it's a great competition to grow young players, but also to sort of catapult yourself into that Pakistan team and get noticed.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the criticism of it that I have sometimes is that catapult is too strong. You have 2 good performances at the PSL, and they hand you a test cap. And so, I feel like sometimes it might be a little bit too quick. But speaking of that Pakistan side, speaking of Pakistan Test cricket and just the international side, you've played against us a few times. You've been in thorn in the back a few times. Why don't you tell us about some of the memories you've had against Pakistan? Some good ones, and if we were good enough, some bad ones.
Yeah, I actually only had good games against Pakistan. I don't know why, because I was like the worst bowler ever. I should have just got pumped out of the park. Someone described my bowling as autumn leaves, just floating down. Maybe it was just so slow. So I always picked up a couple of wickets, but I did quite well. I think the most memorable game I had was Champions Trophy semi-final.
That's the one.
I actually batted. It was never really documented, but I batted with a broken thumb. And when I came back, I actually had it operated on. So I broke my thumb. I wasn't sure whether I was going to play. I had an injection before the game into the thumb. So it was dead. Like I couldn't feel it. It felt like one of those supporters' hands. It was sort of out there.
Nice.
So, I was batting and I just used the top hand really. Managed to get, I think, either 60 or 70 not out, and we won the game. I was dropped by Yunus Khan. It was a famous drop at extra cover, which I think he just thought I hit it quite hard, but it came off the splice and it just kind of looped and it got him with a reverse cut.
Yeah.
So that was lucky, but that was a moment where I got 4 wickets against England the game before, and I was always in and out of the team, and then suddenly got 60 not out against Pakistan in the semis, and now I felt like I belonged, but I bust my thumb. So then missed the tour to Abu Dhabi to play against Pakistan because of my thumb, but that was a very memorable moment. And once again, like a semi-final where, a big moment. So I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, you know what they say in world cricket: behind every successful batsman is a Pakistani drop catch. So you can ask anybody. Marcus North, Marcus Labuschagne, yourself, anybody. It's quite the thing. AZ, you want to?
What about some individual battles you've had with our bowling? Of course, our battings are absolute, muppets in those days, especially in ODI cricket. But what about the bowling? Who was the Pakistani fast bowler, spinner who really troubled you, really gave you a tough time?
Well, I tell you that game, I think I faced the most difficult bowler I've ever faced in international cricket. So, before the game, you do all this analysis and you look at the hands, and it was Saeed Ajmal. So he bowled. I was sort of picking him in the, when it's going slow motion in your scouting session and you're still not picking it, you're in trouble. But I thought that okay, I can sort of pick him because I never looked at the hand. I always looked at the ball in the air. And I could see from the seam which way it was spinning and then adapt accordingly. But I faced his first ball and I thought, oh, that's the off spinner. And I played and missed, and it was the Dusha. And then the next one, I was like, oh, that's the Dusha. And it was the off spinner. They appealed, not out. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to sweep. So I just started sweeping him. And because it was a night game, I couldn't really see the seam, and he bowled cross seam as well. But he was, it's scary. And in international cricket, you've got a couple of balls where, the bowlers are that good, especially mystery spin, that they'll put it on a line and length that is dangerous. And if you can't read it, you're gone within 5 balls. So you have to adapt really quickly. And I was lucky that day. I just, came off and I swept him. Another one was Muhammad Irfan. So I watched him, and that was when he was bowling. He's like 140, he was just sort of on the scene. And I thought, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move across to off stump or just outside off and just get him in there and just kind of like hit it down to fine leg because he very rarely hits the stumps. I will go into bat, and it was at the Westpac Stadium, and he's got a leg slip in already. And I was like, oh, well, there goes that plan. And the first ball, so I thought, okay, well, now I have to be more leg side of it and look to hit him through the off. Yeah. And the first ball, it came at my body. I don't know if you can find the footage, but I played a defensive shot and the bat just flew out of my hand.
I remember that, yeah.
It was just like trampoline bounce. It was unreal. But actually, my first ever game against Pakistan, listen to this bowling lineup. So I was still in South Africa. And it's actually quite a funny story. So I'd batted at like 7 the whole season. I'd been like the bowling all-rounder.
Right, okay.
Anyway, we arrive at this. It's a World Cup warm-up game, 2003. And the coach is walking towards me from the other side of the field. And I thought, I know what's going on here. He's going to make me bet at 3 today because it's a pretty good bowling lineup and none of the senior guys will want to face this lineup. The coach comes to me and goes, listen, Grant, we want to give you a little go at batting at 3 today. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's good. All the other guys are sort
convenient.
of convenient.
How convenient is that?
Yeah, real convenient when you listen to this lineup. Wasim Akram, Waqar Younis, Shoaib Akhtar, Mohammad Sami, Razak, and Afridi.
My God.
And I faced all of them. I eventually got out for 30 off maybe 60 balls or something.
That's as good as a test 100. Listen, Grant, we're going to give you a test 100 for that. If you're facing those 5 and you're getting 30 off 60, even it's a warm-up game, that's as good as a test 100, no doubt about it.
But the worst thing about it is that the captain said to me, listen, Wasim Akram was batting in the last over and I was bowling it. And he goes, bounce him. I'm going, bounce him. I think it was Adam Bacher. So I run in, I bounce him, and he sort of goes like that. And he turns to the guy at backward point and he goes, what number's he batting? And they said, he's batting at 3. And I got a bumper first ball from him. He smoked me for 6 after that delivery. But yeah, I got a rapid bumper. And the swing that he bowled with, I left a couple and I thought, oh, there goes my off pole. And it just kind of missed.
Yeah.
But yeah, a really awesome experience to face those greats from Pakistan.
We're talking 2003, so that's probably, Wasim not even at his best. You should be lucky
Yeah.
facing him in '96 or even '99. That would have been special, even more difficult.
Yeah.
But you've talked about your struggles against Pakistan and some of the good times as well, and just the struggles as an international cricketer. You did hit that six though. That was a pretty insane shot, man. The one against South Africa. That was a packed crowd, a capacity crowd, a semifinal game, and you won that. I'm not gonna ask you how you did that, because I don't know if there was a process behind that. If there is, please tell us. But I want to ask you about pressure as a pro batsman.
Yeah.
Is that something that you can coach? Can you train someone to hit that six? Can you coach someone to be pressure ready? Or is that something that Grant Elliott was born with? And that's it. That's just what it's going to be.
No, so I think everyone can hit a six, right? Okay, so I mean, I always think of batting like driving a car, a manual car. When you start driving it, it's awkward, and the clutch, and everything goes wrong. But then as soon as you get the muscle memory, then it's easier. And I think batting and bowling is like that. I mean, I trained at that stage, I was 35. I was a professional at 16, so I'd been 19 years of cricket
yeah.
full on, my whole life. So you're batting all the time. So I mean, I was ready I could hit that six. But I think the question is, like, how do you do it under pressure? And I think over time, like if I was younger, I don't think I would have hit that six. But because I was at the vintage age that I was in international cricket, I had gone through so many hardships and actually learned the tools to cope with pressure situations. And I think immediately, as soon as you feel that pressure, you just go into those tools that you learn, and like it's breathing. And it's, of course, the first message that comes into your head is failure. Like, what if I don't do this? And then it's about, eradicating those thoughts and getting those good thoughts in, like, what an awesome opportunity this is. I'm never going to get this opportunity again. How good will this be, if I can do this, or when I do this. You take the challenge on. So you turn that fear into a positive, excited sort of adrenaline rather than a scared adrenaline. And I think that, your fight, flight, or freeze moment, you have those in your career where you freeze, you flight, so you run away from the situation, or you fight. Like I learned to always be a fighter. Like I didn't always think I was the most talented cricketer. I always had to work hard for it and fight. And in that moment, I think that you see those three attributes within players, and they learn from it. If you're young and you make a mistake, and you learn from it and you get better and better, which is why in World Cup situations, you need experienced players, and big situations, you can't rely on just these young guys to come through and just do it for you, because they're talented and younger and stronger and faster. Experience counts for so much in this game.
Well, basically, what you're telling us is that we have to take Shoaib Malik to another World Cup.
Go for it.
Yeah. we got to stick to Malik and Hafiz. We should give Shahid a call. Bring back Afridi as well.
Get the band back together.
Get the band back together. No, that's a fair point. And in Pakistan, speaking from Pakistan fans' perspective, sometimes we're constantly pushing for the younger boys. The younger guys coming through, and there's there's a lot of talent there when you look at the young guys coming in. But then you put them in that Pakistan shirt, they put the star on the chest, and there's 200 million people watching, and a lot of them fail. And then we're like, oh, maybe we just don't have the talent. But I'm thinking out loud right now, maybe it's not that they're not talented. Maybe it's just that they haven't spent the time that you had when you got to that semifinal stage. It's just 16 years of pro cricket. That's a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I look at someone like Hairy Ali. I always bring him up. Like, I was really impressed with him 2 years ago in the PSL. I was like, wow, this guy, like, superstar. And then he's played for Pakistan. And then now he got dropped from the Zami side towards the end of the series. And I think he's chasing runs now. He wants to be in that Pakistan team rather than just expressing himself.
Yeah.
And I think you learn in cricket that, like, the thing that holds you back is fear of failure and expectations. So if you can get rid and take that handbrake, which is fear of failure and expectations, and you just take that off, the sooner you do that, you can express yourself, and you're going to get out. You're going to get low scores. You're going to go through bad run of form, but you're also going to go through really good run of form. And you just have to be consistent with your attitude and your processes and the way that you approach the game. And if you are, then you are going to be consistent. But if you ride the emotions of all of that, you ride the highs and the lows, your game is going to be as inconsistent. And I feel my experience with Pakistan and the PSL is that the guys are so passionate about the game, which is great, but you can't be passionate about the result, unfortunately. Like when we won a game, when we won a game for like Quetta or Lahore, it was exactly the same. It was like we'd won the World Cup. And then if we had lost, it was like someone's mum had died, you know? It was like, guys, just chill out. Like, let's just be consistent. When we win, you know, we're happy about it. We celebrate and then we get back to normal. When we lose, yes, we're a little bit down. We reflect and we get back to normal. And you just kind of operate on that consistent front all the time.
It's a good way to put it. It's a good way to look at it too. And sometimes because we're such a cricket crazy nation, we take that variable out of the equation. It literally becomes life or death, and that's a bit much because it is a game of bat and ball at the end. We're going to talk about you and the PSL as a cricketer. I'm going to give that to AZ, but we did open up questions to people that listen to us. There was one of them that I really did like, and it comes from Abdullah Hamad. And you can choose not to answer this, but I want you to. Did you actually feel bad for Dale Steyn that day?
I did. Like, probably not for him just by himself, but for the whole team, for South Africa.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, South Africa, I lived through some really tough times as a South African player when I was there. That was the 92 World Cup where they needed 22 or 15 balls and they're 22 off one. Then there was the 2003 where Boyer ran on and said, "Oh, you need 197 or something."
99 as well with Klusner and Alan Donald. That too. Oh my God.
Yeah, that one was heartbreaking. So that was a tied game. So similar to like New Zealand's final, it was tied, but they lost it. So going through all of that heartache, I sort of felt the pain of the guys. Like it was tough, and I had really good perspective. I talk about, you know, the game is, you know, there's a winner and a loser. I had really good perspective on that. And I sort of, during the competition, I was happy for people that succeeded. I wasn't jealous. I'd, you know, felt like I was coming to the end of my career, and I was genuinely like, oh, you know, if I was in their position. So I felt that empathetic, emotional side to the opposition. And yeah, I mean, on another day, Dale Steyn smokes my middle pole out of the ground and I look stupid. But yeah, it was man on man and I won that battle. But on another day, he wins it. That's just the game.
Yeah, there's no doubting about what he's achieved in world cricket. Probably one of the best bowlers, if not the best, in the last 15 to 20 years. But AZ, it's time to open your treasure chest of pain. You can now pick at Pandora's box, as we call it. Yes, exactly.
Sure. Thank you, Musad. Before I ask you about the Lahore question, which is on my mind for quite a while, I want to ask you about the pressures of dealing with international cricket as a touring cricketer. You have been a pro for like 20 years plus. What do we as fans and observers not understand as non-cricketers? What is the hardship like? And of course, mental health is a big issue these days. What do we not understand about the life of a pro cricketer?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think something that became really apparent to me when I started playing cricket or internationally, is that as a fan, you expect guys to just turn up and score runs and be consistent. And why is he not scoring runs? However, I think with professional cricketers, sometimes a lot of stuff outside of their playing life can go wrong. So it might be family, it might be relationship, it might be financial, whatever it is. We've always got stuff going on, right? The best players in the world can just compartmentalize and just go, I just have to watch the ball. That's the secret to it, is like just see ball, hit ball. But it's easier said than done when you've got other stuff going on. So I think the fans don't know what's going on in people's lives when they see them play badly or hit a bad run of form. And I think that, you know, like international cricketers are not robots; they're people, and it is tough to, as a fan, realize that and have empathy when you see someone going through a bad run of form, because you feel like you can just, hurl abuse at them from the stands, which we've all had as players.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that you just have to support them no matter what. And, being patriotic towards your country, I think that's what international sport's all about, is like you just back your team to the hilt.
Yeah, basically
Well,
what you're saying, Grant, is don't be a dick.
Don't be a dickhead. Yeah. The no dickhead policy is a good policy.
Well, speaking of patriotic, of course, I am born and bred in Lahore, my hometown. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. You've played for the Qalandars. You've given us one of our most iconic moments. But somehow this franchise is an absolute doldrums. With Aqib Javed, we've had 5 seasons, 4 of them outside the playoffs. One year we got to the final. Okay, fair enough. But other than that, it's been misery. Although we've had top players like Brendan McCullum, AB de Villiers, yourself, Sohail Tanveer, and a whole list of others. What is the problem with this franchise, Grant? I want you to be very frank and very honest. I don't want you to, dodge about and say because you've played for them, you're going to be nice. I just want, what is wrong with this setup and how can they fix it in the future?
I think the bowling attack is fantastic.
Yeah.
I actually think it's probably the best bowling attack of the competition this year. So when I look at that, I go, okay, well, what's wrong with it? It has to be the batting. And I do think that Lahore have lacked in the batting department more up front in the top 3. So that top 3, a good start and a solid number 3. Hafiz brings, a lot of experience, which is good. I think that's what you do need, that sort of stable batting or batsman in the order. But I just don't think they've settled into being able to get someone from the auction that they retain every year. And when you look to retain players, like I look at that Lahore team, I'd go Shaheen Shafridi, Rashid Khan, Haris Rauf, maybe Faulkner this year. You'd look at retaining him. But then when you look at the batters, you're like, oh, who would I retain? And so that's my kind of question mark, is like, if they can get that combination right, I feel like they could basically, attack teams with their bowling, but it's sort of to chase down any total with their batting is always, as a Lahore fan, I always felt, oh no, Lahore's got to chase 140 here. What's in store, And
but do you think, isn't there like a long-term malaise in the management, in the coaching setup, or do you think it's just this season only? It's a personnel issue. You don't think it's a coaching or management issue at all?
No, I don't think so, because I think in T20s, I think that you don't have time to coach people. The team gets together. It's a short-lived space and time. You're not going to be able to get better as a player. So I think it's the personnel that you choose. So, do they have the correct personnel? Is it right-hand, left-hand combination? Can they find someone up top that can be more consistent? For me, Fakhar Zaman, Hafiz, and Dunk are your senior players that score the runs in that team. So when we look at their numbers, were their numbers good enough? You'd probably say no, they weren't. So there you go. But you look at the bowlers and you go, oh, okay, yeah, they were, pretty decent. So if they can just find consistency in that, and I think that in T20 franchise cricket, it's about finding those players that you're going to retain, and that keep them, and that's the nucleus of your team. So Zalmi have got Wahab Riaz, Shoaib Malik, and I was hoping Haider Ali would be someone, but Kamran Akmal is someone. So there's 3 players that you've got that are consistent, and you build your squad around that. So I think that's the challenge, but you got to still keep supporting them. Like I said, be patriotic.
Hold on,
but speaking of, let me ask him something. Speaking of consistent, and of course, your home country, your adopted home country, New Zealand, World Test Championships. What a run they've World Test champions. What a run they've had in all forms of cricket, especially in 5-day cricket. What has been the secret to their success, to their rejuvenation in the test format? Because they don't play as much as the others. They don't get the attention, that's for damn sure. But they have some absolute beasts in Kyle Jamieson, BJ Watling, underrated, fantastic wicketkeeper batsman, Kane Williamson, Ross Taylor, you name it. They've got a whole galaxy of stars, but they never get that spotlight. But somehow they've risen to the top of the red ball game. What has been the secret, and how did they manage that? And how can Pakistan replicate that, more importantly?
Green pitches, really green. No, I honestly think it's consistency in selection, giving guys the chance to fail. So, it's not like 2 games in, no knee-jerk reactions with selections. Guys are genuinely, I think when they go in and they get an opportunity, they know that they're going to get a fair run.
Yeah.
And they're going to be in there for a long time. Because like, if you look at it, we had 22 players that played during the Test Championship to get to the final, but the nucleus of that team was kind of like, you've got Tom Latham at the top, and then obviously Devon Conway eventually came in, but Tom Blundell was there. He was given quite a few opportunities and has done really well. He'll be the wicketkeeper batsman now that BJ Watling's gone. So great succession planning. So that's another thing. But then you look at the consistency throughout that team. Ross Taylor, Kane Williamson, Henry Nicholls. Then there's a little change in the all-rounders, spinning all-rounder or the medium pace all-rounder. And then the bowlers, just consistent. Wagner, Bolt, Southey, Jameson. And then you might throw in Ajaz Patel for 1 or 2 tests. He didn't play many. We just played the seam attack. So consistency, so guys can understand their game, understand their role, get better, feel comfortable in international cricket, and give them a chance to actually, prove that either they're good enough or not good enough. And I think that the environment that you create there is an environment of trust, where you don't think you're looking over your shoulder, that if you fail, you're, going to be on the chopping block and get dropped. Because if you do have that feeling in a team, then I think that you start playing for yourself, and there's enough pressure in international cricket that you don't need the added pressure of selection thrown onto it.
Very good. It's a very strong point you make there. But go ahead, Masad.
No, I mean, that's really interesting insight, because there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions as a fan. A couple of people have 2 bad games are out of the squad. My earlier question was, this is just something that I had in my mind, because there's a lot of people that have been speaking very highly of Shaheen Afridi, and there's reason for that. There's clear evidence for that, and not just in the number of wickets he takes, but the way he conducts himself on the field, how he's so mature about his bowling. You said you faced Wasim Waqar Shoaib Razak in 2003 in a warm-up match. That sounds like a fucking nightmare, to be honest. But you've also dealt with Shaheen Afridi as a teammate and an opponent. Now, we haven't had a test match bowler since Waqar Younis that took 200 wickets, a fast bowler, mind you. We've had Yasir Shah in the spin department. But the last fast bowler to take 200 wickets for Pakistan was Waqar Younis. I want you, as somebody that has worked with Shaheen and played against him and played with him, is the hype real? Is he for real? How good is he really as a professional?
Yeah, I think he's amazing. Like I've seen him get better as well, because some of these guys, they burst onto the scene and then they just kind of plateau out. They don't get any better. So whatever he's doing, like whether it's the head on his shoulders, whether it's the information he's getting, he's maturing as a bowler and he's taking on pressure moments. So you could see, like in that last game, it was a crunch game for Lahore. Like he stands up and you can see that, he's going to be a match winner. And I said earlier, like, players with experience are the ones that win you games, crunch games. They might not be the ones that get you to the final, but they're the ones that get you over the line in the final because of their experience. And I think Shaheen's developing into that player that, that when it's a crunch time, you can call upon him to bowl a Yorker or get a wicket. and he's got the skill. Like, he's developed so many different skills and pace and consistency. The line and length he was bowling in the Test series, it was unbelievable. Like, he was standout bowler for Pakistan when he came to New Zealand.
Well, speaking of another one of our best prospects, of course, Babar Azam, the captain of the side, our kingpin, pretty much our everything right now in Pakistan cricket. Is he good, or can he be great? And how close is he to that famed Fab Four of Kohli, Williamson, Smith, and of course Joe Root? Do you think he's right up there, or there's still something he needs to prove in red ball cricket or in any other format?
You have to tell us he's better than Joe Root, or else Pakistan fans are going to hate you.
No, I mean, his numbers stack up, don't they? I mean, you know, as one of the world's best, so you have to say, like, the numbers don't lie. I think, you know, in T20 cricket, finding out the position that's best for him, that'll be interesting, because as the game progresses, I sort of feel that someone who averages 35 and strikes at 135 is kind of like your openers. And, you know, it's just getting more and more aggressive, the T20 game. But in saying that, you know, like, he's consistent. So can you bat around him? So how they manage him with T20s, I think, is a question mark. But outside of that, he's dominating all formats. He's an unbelievable player. He's so good to watch, though. I love watching him bat. He's just, you know, I like batsmen who have a correct technique, you know. It looks correct.
Your cover drive would stack up pretty well next to Babar. It was pretty nice in its own time.
I don't know. The wrists were going, and nowhere near
proper technique. You must be a big Fawad Alam fan, then,
yeah. It could be the best or worst thing that ever happens in Pakistan cricket, is all the kids copying Fawad Alam. You never know.
But speaking of Fawad Alam and speaking of red ball cricket, what do you think about the current state of Test cricket? Do you think we need to make that transition to 4-day Test cricket eventually, or do you like it as 5 days? What is the health of that format, and can it last, you know, into the next decade and a half? Do you think that it's in a bit of trouble, or it's all good?
My mates always say that when I see a red ball, I get a rash. So and I didn't really take to like a duck to water with Test cricket. I think I wanted to score 10 Test hundreds, and I averaged 10. So, but my highest Test score was against Pakistan. So
there you go.
You're welcome.
I think, you know, the broadcast numbers, they're not as good as they used to be with Test cricket, but I still love it as a product. I think when you look at a product, you look at golf, like, you know, the majors, and how popular they still are. Now, they go on for 4 days, you know. So why can't, you know, Test cricket be the champagne of cricket? You know, it's like the pinnacle. I don't think we should ever lose it. 4 days, day, nights, whatever the broadcasters want, I think. But yeah, you just got to stick with the traditions of Test cricket. If it goes down to 4 days, then fine, you know, and make it day night. But yeah, I
think day night is already pretty successful. People like that, I think.
Yeah, with the pink ball, and yeah, it makes for a bit of a change. But I mean, there's nothing better as a purist than watching a Test match, right? Like it's I love commentating a Test match. I didn't think
especially watching India lose a Test match is absolute perfection, you know.
That is good, especially in the world.
Yeah, nothing like it. Nothing like it. I'm a purist in that sense. I mean, AZ knows I was complaining when they put numbers at the back of the Test shirt. I was like, just
come on,
just leave them blank. Why do you have to commercialize everything? And I have my reservations even with the pink ball. To be honest, I don't see it behaving as well as.
Have you played with against the pink ball, Grant? How does it feel?
Nightmare. Like I don't know, I didn't really like it. I didn't like that feeling of facing the pink ball. It's just funny, like it does change throughout the day a little bit, like the Duke. And going back to your question about Test cricket, I actually think that maybe what they should do is say to the captain, you choose, what ball do you want, Kookaburra or Duke?
Exactly. Absolutely.
They would always choose the Duke, which then you argue, shouldn't we just use the Duke for Test cricket, which gives the bowlers a little bit more through the air, more seam pronounced for spin. It's a harder ball. I think that would, especially in New Zealand, I'd love to see the Duke ball in New Zealand.
You're choosing between two balls, but what about the toss? Do you want to
so
you want the toss?
Yeah, Rizwan's won the toss and he's chosen to bowl with the Duke ball.
Right. No, but because I remember speaking to Bumble in Abu Dhabi when Pakistan were demolishing England. I mean, we were a pretty strong side with Misbah Haq in the UAE until you guys came along and beat us there too. But anyways, we won't talk about that. What I'm talking about is when we're speaking to Bumble at the Abu Dhabi Stadium, and because he was on commentary saying, well, we don't need to have a toss in Test cricket. The away side should always decide what they want to do first.
Yeah, no, that's not a bad call. They do that in county so that no one prepares like a real green mamba. So you turn up and they go, opposition teams won the toss, they're going to bowl. So that would be interesting in India because, I mean, we know those pitches are absolute Bunsen burners, as we call them, turners.
That would be a tough one. Listen, Grant, we're 40 minutes in. It really has been a pleasure. I'm sure I could do this all day, but you probably have to go back to bed or go speak to Martin Guptill about something. So I'll come to the end of this conversation. We end with a couple of questions. I'll add one extra one for you. Typically, what we ask is, who is your favorite ever Pakistani cricketer overall and in the current era, right? So those are the two questions we typically ask. For you, I'll add one more. You have got to answer those two. And the last one you have to answer is, will Lahore ever win a PSL in AZ's lifetime? These three, you got to tell us these three things before we let you go.
And I'm in my mid-30s, so you have an estimation.
I think like my favorite of all time was Inzamam al-Haq.
Yes, great pick.
92 World Cup. I just loved that little glide down to third man, like at the Eden Park in the semi-finals. Yeah, he was awesome. So he was my greatest all time. Current is Yasir Shah. Is he current player? Would you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
That counts.
Yasir, I love Yasir. Consistent personality, always happy. That 100 he scored in Australia. Oh, that just like made
that
my
was
heart.
Ridiculous.
He's just such a nice, like happy, vibrant guy. I love him. So he'd be my current favorite, I reckon. And will Lahore ever win? Of course they will, because everyone else. So I think it has to be Lahore.
Whoa! So is this the law of the averages then?
Law of the averages has to be. I mean, if you're a betting man, you're betting straight on Lahore, surely.
Well, PSL 7 winners, Lahore Qalandars. You heard it here first, folks. It'll probably be the last time you hear it too, considering the way the team is going. But listen, Grant, thank you so much for your time. If you ever want to join us on comms, if you want to ever, if we're winning against you, we're going to invite you on our commentary and see how you feel about that. If we're losing, we'll pretend like we're not on air. And we can't wait for New Zealand to tour Pakistan, so you can be back.
That's going to be huge.
Again. That's going to be real good. Our pitches are going
to
exactly, and I'm telling you now, our pitches are going to be better than India's. No doubt about that.
Wow, I mean, that's not difficult.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for your time. We're going to just go off air, and we'll see you guys for the next live game.